Alright, hello everybody. Welcome to the second video that I forgot to make. Hehehe. So today we will be setting up a project, at least a project in my recommended stack for beginners. So first up, we'll go to GitHub. We'll create a repository, which I think is a good idea. So let's give it, let's say project, just like that. And then you can choose public or private, doesn't really matter. Git ignore, it's all good. We're all fine. And we'll just create it. Am I recording? Yes, I am. So now that we're here, I suggest we set it up with GitHub Desktop. So set up with desktop, and we'll do that. You click clone. So GitHub Desktop, if you don't have it, you can just download it here. I'm sure you guys can figure out how the sign in and all that. But yeah, this is GitHub Desktop. It's just a desktop application of the Git CLI. If that doesn't really make much of sense, just think of it as the easier version of using GitHub. Yes. So again, we just start a repository, click setup in desktop, and it will lead us here, where it'll ask you to clone. Once you clone it, you're all good. Then you can click open in Visual Studio Code. So tada, we're now in the project. Okay, I hope you're still following. Although it's a bit fast, oh, it's fine. You can just rewatch, hehe, or just ask me. Then here we will start with the project. So first, the most important, if you remember our parang diagram, the thing that connects the front end to the back end is our meta framework. So I think that's the best place to start. So you can start with NextJS, or if you guys want to use like SvelteKit or something like that, you just go to search them up, and then you can click get started, right? And then you can just scroll down, oh here, in installation. So you can see here, oh, this is the command we install. So uh, you should know though that it's important that you have something called Node.js. So Node.js. This way we can run this command. This is called npx, which is node script, something like that. Run the script. So you need this. You need to download this first so that you can do this. So how do you know if you download it? You can say npm dash dash v. And yes, I do have a version. So we just copy this and then we paste. Then since we want it in the same directory, we just press space and then period and then enter. And you say yes. TypeScript, sure, why not? ESLint, no, we don't need that. Tailwind, yes. Source directory, yes. App router, yes. Turbo pack, sure. Import alias change, no, keep it like that. Alright, and there you go. So you have a bunch of files now. So let me just explain a few. So first you have your tsconfig. This is your TypeScript config file, right? So right now it's still loading, so some stuff will be added. This is your README file. READMEs are something called Markdown. It's similar to HTML, I guess. HTML though is markup language. This is markdown language. So this is used for documentation sometimes. And over here on the right, it's the rendered version. It's kind of pretty. It's what you see here in GitHub. Here at the bottom usually. You'll see it later. And then next we have the post CSS config file. This is don't touch this. This is how Tailwind is installed into the project. Your package.json, this is pretty important, so pay attention. Package.json lists all of your dependencies. Your dependencies and your dev dependencies. Dependencies are like libraries that are important, like React, React DOM, Next. Then dev dependencies are libraries that you use during development that aren't super important, but you do need them in the project. But in the final project, like the production ready, we don't really need them to be given to the end client. In other words, they don't really give functionality in the app, but they help you in functionality in making the app, if that makes sense. So for example, Tailwind is a dev dependency because we use it to style things in the app, but the user doesn't use Tailwind to like do a functionality. Something like that, yes. Anyway, um, it's usually optimized anyway at the end, so it's not that big of a deal. These are your scripts. So you can activate scripts by doing npm run and then the name of the script. So for example, if you want to do lint, so npm run lint, and then we can see it runs the lint. Would you like to configure ESLint? Let's cancel. Let's not use ESLint for now. Then you can do npm run dev. So when you run dev, this starts the local host. So if you click this link, dun, 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 this is your current website. This is the base of a Next.js project. So that's how you test it. So instead of like if you're familiar with HTML, you just run the index HTML. But this one, you just npm run dev, go to localhost 3000. Okay, CLS to clean that up, and let's move this back down. Moving up, package lock JSON. Just don't touch this unless you're 100% sure you know what you're doing. The use of package lock JSON is that it's connected to the package JSON, and the package lock JSON just basically locks down the version that you have in package JSON to make sure everything is just smooth sailing and clean. And it also maps out how each dependency is connected to each other, because dependencies have dependencies, and those have dependencies, and some of them have shared, some of them don't share, some of them each other. It's a complicated. That's why this file is hugely long. So yeah, just don't touch it. Next, next config. This is your configuration for your next application. You might have to change things here later on, but right now, no, not really. Next is nextenv.ts. Um, Honestly, I don't know what this is. We can figure that out later. Next, git ignore. Git ignore is everything that will be ignored by GitHub. So an example of this is if you have something called .env files, or let's say you have sensitive files, your API keys, or let's say your bank account information that you need in the project for you to do something, but you don't want it posted on GitHub online. So you simply just write it down here or write the path to it, and it will not push it to GitHub. All right, next, src source. So you notice this src, and then inside source there's app. So inside the app, we have here the basics page.tsx, layout.tsx. So you can learn more about this specific part when you're learning Next.js specifically. Next, we have public. So public is public images. So images that it's like the assets folder. You place all of the things that will be needed by the website or will be publicly shown through the web. Usually just images, SVGs, MP3 files, stuff that you don't necessarily have to hide. You know what I mean? Next is node modules. Node modules is scary. It's a huge library. These are all of your dependencies, parang organized in one folder. Okay, it's super heavy, and that's also why we don't push it to Git. So, for example, here in Git ignore, you see /node modules, because we don't actually push it. Because whenever you start a new project, you can just click npm install or npm I, and it will read your package JSON and read your package lock JSON or generate one if it doesn't exist, and then download everything in a node modules folder. So that's why you don't actually push node modules, but all you need to push is package JSON and package lock, and as long as you have node, it can install everything for you. Last is the .next. This is the parang cache, or like the trash can, or like the okay, cache. Let's say cache. It's the cache of Next.js. So when you generate npm run dev, or when you build something, it stores everything first in .next so that it will actually show up on the website. So in other words, it's like it's just its own thing. .next's own thing. All right. So now that we have a starting website, so let me just show you an example. If you go here, page.tsx, and let's say we delete all this. Right, you can delete this. Wait lang. There we go. Let me just double check. Right, we don't have this. And then let's just say we have an h1. Right, and then if you npm run dev, okay, and then we go 3000, reload, and you see here, get all that's good. You see that, hello world. Then what's nice about this is that it's hot reloaded. So if you add something here, it will automatically compile without having to refresh. So that's pretty useful. So that's how you set up a Next.js application. If you want to add things now, so let's try adding the rest of our stack. So first one is shadcn UI. So you just search that up again, and then you go to the docs, and then you click next, and then there's here. So just copy. You follow the, oh no, we already created a project, so we don't need that. We just need to add components. Actually, no, we do need that. Sorry. Paste it down. Yes, proceed. Oh, we'll just go with the basics. It's installing. Yay. Then what I like to do is I like to add all of the components na lang para no problem later. Add dash dash all. Ooh. Okay, let's force. So there are some ano. I usually fix this using pnpm, but this should be fine. So pnpm is just another package manager like npm, but yeah, it's a bit complicated. Then if you notice now, we have wala pa. Other than that, we can add Prisma. Although I think I'll have my own another one for this one since this takes quite a while since you have to download also Postgres. So maybe later. Maybe video 3. Bam. So if you look here, components, there's a bunch of UI components now from shadcn. There are some hooks and libraries, so just don't touch those. CLS again to clean, and there. So this is the basics of a, say, parang, ano ba yun? Like parang front end. So you don't have any back end yet. So to use a component, for example, is if we import, it's a good component to import. You can just always read documentation, docs. Try this one, a calendar. So you have to do is import the calendar first, like so. And then, sorry, like that. Oh, what's this? React EMD file manager concern. Like that. So we have an error here, and then the best way is just to read. You're importing use state React hook only works in client component. Mark this file with use client. So we just do that. Here, say use client because of the new feature in React. So we can have this, and this is an example of how powerful like parang UI libraries are because we didn't have to make that, right? Just a single, sorry, let me close this one. Just a single component here, and voila, like you already have something usable and looks nice, right? And you can customize it later, so on and so forth. Just an example. So let's say now you want to make your own file. So all you have to do is inside app, you create a folder of the name of the route you want. Let's say hello, for example. And then you create a page.tsx. So here's an example. Make sure it's named page. And then the export is the name of the component with a capital, just an example. And then create a layout that looks exactly like this. This took me a while to figure out. Just do that. Right. And then when you go here and you go slash home, oh hello, right? Bam, it's there. And what's nice about this is you can create another folder here. Say it's called world, right? And then you can create just like that. Let's say world. So now see it's updating. So you can just go slash hello slash world, and voila, it's there. So that's an example of file-based routing, and that's why Next is pretty good. And then another example is you create a folder here called API, right? And then you can create a route in the API. So let's say test, and then in test create a route.js. So instead of that, let's just have. So this is an example of a post request. let's just have a simple get request instead. We don't need the request object. So now in your page, for example, let's say in world, right? Over here, we can create. Okay, there's a lot of stuff, but basically, if you go to this, right? The idea now is that if you go here slash API slash test, right? I believe that's the route. Yeah, API test. Okay, never mind. We need to use something called Postman because it doesn't let us do that. So API slash test, and it's a get request. So a get here, and we send it. It does not work. Why? Oh, because we didn't run it. My bad. Okay, it's ready now. So if you run here in the browser, see, it returns this JSON file. So the idea is that it's a server. So in your project, you can call this fetch. You can await fetch, basically. Like that thing. Also, you have to use a use effect for that. You can look into that your own. But that's just how the API works. So if you make another route, let's say another one, like let's say hello, right? And then you create a route also, right? And then it's just hello. So when you go API slash slash hello, you get hello, data hello, right? You can also do that here in Postman in case this is helpful for post requests. So for example, if I make this a post request, so I'll show you an example, and we put the request object here, right? And then this is used for post is when you have to send data to the server so the server can process that data and send something back, like input output kind of thing. So for that one, let me just get my pre-made code. Okay, wait. Yeah, so this is a request. You have to wait for the request to be turned to a JSON. Then let's just return that request, for example. Right. But let's say, for example, you want it. I just show that it's a response, right? So we put the data, and let's add another step. So that's an example, right? And then it's done now. So this is in API slash hello. So if we go here, API slash hello, right? If it's a get request, you get an error. But you need to turn it to a post request, body raw, right? And then let's say we put information. So you can put um, string data, but you can also put numbers. Say like that. Now if you send it, it will send that, but also the status done because we received the data here, but we also send it back here for as just an example. So this is when you need to use um, parang when you need to query the database, for example. You don't want that to happen in the client side. You want that in the server, so that's safe. And then the reason why Postman is useful is because now it's hard to test here. So we go slash hello, it's not working, right? Because you need to pass in the post request, which is pretty hard on the desktop. That's why you use tools like Postman, or if you want to stay on brand, you can use like Thunder Client here, which is an add-on in VS Code. But yeah, that's generally the layout. You have something here, the front end, and it will query your API, which is also in NextJS, like this, and then you can process it. So just as a real world example, let me use my BlueHacks. Wow, plug in talaga. Let me use my BlueHacks project. So for example, I think what's good is this, right? So this is a post request where it gets the country code from the data, right? And it will create another fetch request to this API and then return it, right? And where did we use this? So let's try looking for slash API slash hotline. So we used it here. So again, So over here, right? Oh, this looks a bit complicated, but in essence, it's over here. We just await fetched it. We called it a post method, and it's a header, so it's a JSON file. And then there's the body of that post request. We sent it the latitude and longitudes, right? And then we reloaded the page. So that's an example. Another example is just look for a simple one instead. This one in report select location. So this is a very simpler example where we just create a response, we fetch for it, report slash save, and we pass these data. So report.save, if we go there, right? API, then we go to report, sorry, API, report, and over here save. So if you check here, oh, that's a lot of data, but in essence, we're just getting the data here, the form data, right? We turn it to form data, and then we basically just process it a bunch until we can save it. Like here, this is an example of updating something in the database, creating something in the database, and then when we're done, we just return, oh, we're done, we're success, right? So that's just one example of how the process works. So in the next video, I will be teaching you oh, before we end, if you open again your GitHub desktop, sorry, you'll see a bunch of files. So these are the files that we generated and added, and you can just say init or whatever comment you like that, and then you publish the branch. Right? And then so whenever this changes from your teammate, just fetch origin, see if it's there, pull it if need be. Then now if you go to GitHub, right, and then we go to the project one here, this one, it's all here. And this file, by the way, is the readme file, the markdown.md. This is the auto one generated by Next. And then yeah, these are all your files. So congrats, you just started a project, and just from like just the server stuff, just the server thing and the front end pa lang, I think that's the most basic setup. For the next video, I will set it up with a database and an ORM using Prisma, since I think that's the simplest way to start, and then Postgres database, either online or local. Alright, see you guys later.